12th appearance on Meet the Press.
Great to see you.
Thanks for doing this. We'll start with a very basic question. Are you preparing the country to go back to war?
I'm preparing the country to make sure that we deal with a threat from ISIL. Keep in mind, this is something that we know how to do. We've been doing terrorist threats for quite some time. This administration has systematically dismantled Al-Qaeda and the Fatah. We just yesterday announced the fact that we had taken out the top leader of Al-Shabaab.
Time out.
Organization.
Okay. Who the fuck is Fatah? Al-Shabaab, Fatah, are they a threat to us? Okay. Let's roll on with whatever the fuck this clown's got to say.
Organization in Somalia. ISIL poses a broader threat because of its territorial ambitions.
Time out. Okay, why do you keep saying ISIL? You know, the press and the TV and everything I see says ISIS, which is Islamic State, Iraq, and Syria. But you continue to say Islamic State, Iraq, Levant. Do you know what the Levant is? Look up Levant and you'll see it covers Israel. This fucking guy just kills me. Alright, let's go back to the video. You can Wikipedia Levant.
Organization in Somalia. ISIL poses a broader threat because of its territorial ambitions in Iraq and Syria. But the good news is, coming back from the most recent meeting, is the entire international community understands that this is something that has to be dealt with.
Time out.
So it has to be dealt with.
Okay. The entire community. So you go to NATO and you have your meeting, and I'm not quite sure how many NATO members we have. I can look it up, but it doesn't really matter. But you got 9 EU members or NATO members that said, yeah, we'll back you on this. Nine is such a small fucking number. Now he's going to go into... here you go.
Has to be dealt with. So what I have done over the last several months is, first and foremost, make sure that we got eyes on the problem, that we shifted resources, intelligence, reconnaissance. We did an assessment on the ground. The second step was to make sure that we protected American personnel, our embassies, our consulate. It included taking airstrikes to ensure that towns like Erbil were not overrun, critical infrastructure like the Mosul Dam was protected, and that we were able to engage in key humanitarian assistance programs that have saved thousands of lives. The next phase is now to start going on some offense. We have to get an Iraqi government in place, and I'm optimistic that next week we should be able to get that done.
Time out.
And
we have to get a government established in Iraq? Didn't we already do that? Why are we imposing our fucking standard of government on Iraq? I'm all confused here.
And I will then meet with congressional leaders on Tuesday. On Wednesday, I'll make a speech and describe what our game plans are going to be going forward.
He's going to make a speech.
But this is not going to be an announcement about U.S. ground troops. This is not the equivalent of the Iraq War. What this is similar to the kinds of counterterrorism campaigns that we've been engaging in consistently over the last 5, 6, 7 years. And
all under you.
Is that, because of American leadership, we have, I believe, a broad-based coalition internationally and regionally to be able to deal with the problem.
What are you asking of the American people on
broad-based?
You're giving a speech.
Remember NATO? You only got 9 countries to help you out.
Something. What are you asking of them? What do you want? What do you want the American people to receive?
Well, more than anything, I just want the American people to understand the nature of the threat. And
this interviewer is fucking gutless.
And have confidence that we'll be able to deal with it.
Because you're giving that speech the day before the 13th anniversary of 9/11.
But right, and I want everybody to understand that we have not seen any immediate intelligence about threats to the homeland from ISIL. That's not what this is about. What it's about is an organization that, if allowed, control significant amounts of territory, to amass more resources, more arms, to attract more foreign fighters, including from areas like Europe, who have Europeans who have visas and then can travel to the United States unimpeded, that over time that can be a serious threat to the homeland.
Time out.
In term, it's
conflicting reports. I hear there's 100 Americans over there, and I've also heard there's 12 Americans over there. So now you're piss pounding the EU is having all these fucking terrorists that are going back to fight the war. And what's that British dude's name? Cameron? He's like, well, here's what we're going to do. If he can get Parliament approval or whatever it takes over there. He's going to go with them via passports because, you know, I'm not a world traveler, but I know for a fact from working at an airport that if you go into a country, you get your passport stamped. So, this guy's a fucking idiot. Alright, continue on there. I think he's got Ebola on the nose. What up with that?
Term. It's a threat to friends, partners in the region, and is causing all kinds of hardship. And we've seen the savagery, not just in terms of how they dealt with the 2 Americans that had been taken hostage, but the killing of thousands of innocents in Iraq, thousands of innocents in Syria.
Don't mention Christians.
The complete disruption of entire villages. So what I'm going to be asking the American people to understand is, number one, this is a serious threat. Number two, we have the capacity to deal with it. Here's how we're going to deal with it. I am going to be asking Congress to make sure that they understand and support what our plan is.
That's why we need allies,
it's going to require some resources, I suspect, above what we are currently doing.
This is asking Congress for a vote, an authorization of your strategy. This is not a, what does that mean?
Well, I'm confident that I've got the authorization that I need to protect the American people. And I'm always going to do what's necessary to protect the American people. But I do think it's important for Congress to understand what the plan is,
really?
To have buy-in, to
really?
debate it.
Really?
And that's why we've been consulting with Congress throughout.
Congress is on fucking vacation.
Will allow Congress, I think, to understand very clearly and very specifically what it is that we are doing, but also what we're not doing.
Congress is on recess.
Looking at sending in 100,000.
You're talking Harry Reid and Nancy Pelosi.
We are going to be, as part of an international coalition, carrying out airstrikes in support of work on the ground by Iraqi troops, Kurdish troops. We are going to be helping to put together a plan for them so that they can start retaking territory that ISIL had taken over.
Yeah, because they're too stupid to do it on their own, right? Is that what you're saying?
Regional partners to attract back Sunni tribes that may have felt that they had no connection to a Baghdad government that was ignoring their grievances. And so there's going to be an economic element to this. There's going to be a political element to it. There's going to be a military element to it. And what I want people to understand, though, is that over the course of months, we are going to be able
Months.
to not just blunt the momentum of ISIL.
Oh my
We are
God.
going to
Did you just say
systematically
blunt?
degrade their capabilities.
You're gonna make
We're
blunts?
going to shrink the territory that they control. And ultimately, we're going to defeat them.
Long way.
Dude's
long
fucking
way
high.
from when you described them as a JV team.
Well,
was that bad intelligence or your misjudgment?
Keep in mind, I wasn't specifically referring to ISIL. I've said that
ISIL.
regionally,
Here we go.
there were a whole series of organizations that were focused primarily locally, weren't focused on the homeland, because I think a lot of us...
All right, timeout. Timeout. When he made the JV team statement, he was most definitely referring to fucking ISIS. Not ISIL, not IS. He was specifically referring to them. And if you need the link, I can send it to you. What a fucking liar. This is the worst fucking leader the world has ever seen. Alright, continue on there, Hussein.
A lot of us, when we think about terrorism, the model is Osama bin Laden and 9/11. And the point that I was...
You don't believe these people...
Not yet, but they can evolve. And I was very specific at that time. What I said was...
They can evolve?
Every regional terrorist organization is automatically a threat to us that would call for a major offensive. But what is absolutely clear is that ISIL, which started as Al-Qaeda in Iraq and arose out of the U.S. invasion there and
it's Bush's fault. Got ya.
Because of the enormous efforts of our troops there, then shifted to Syria, has metastasized, has grown, and now
I'm too stupid to understand the word.
Well, they're not a JV team, but keep in mind that we anticipated some of these problems in the speech that I gave in West Point several months ago, where I specifically
Yeah, it's another
said,
fucking speech. It ain't no
our goal should
action.
not be to think that we can occupy every country where there is a terrorist organization. Our goal has to be to partner more effectively with governments that are committed to pushing back against the kind of extremism that ISIL represents. And for us to...
All right, stop. More countries to team up with us. Are you on fucking crack, you gutless fucking punk? That's why nobody will team up with us. Except for 9 countries out of NATO, which I think there's like 18. So you're at a 50% ratio, so now you got to get Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, who the fuck else is over there? This is a pack of lies.
For us to do things a little bit differently, we're going to have to work smarter. We're going to have to train the militaries there more capably. We've got to do more effective diplomatic work to eliminate the schism between Sunni and Shia that has been fueling so much of the violence in Syria, in Iraq.
I need a beer. I can't.
And so we put together a plan that is compatible with the kind of work that we're doing now.
You've not said the word Syria so far in our conversation. Obviously, if you're going to defeat ISIS, you have used very much stronger language. It's gone through the week during your trip to Wales. You got to go to Syria.
Okay, Barack, I'm trying to drink your Kool-Aid.
And I'm curious, have you only ruled them out simply for domestic political reasons, or is there another reason you ruled out American boots on the ground? Because your own guys have said you can't defeat ISIS with airstrikes alone.
Well, they're absolutely right about that. But you also cannot, over the long term or even the medium term, deal with this problem by having the United States serially occupy various countries all around the Middle East. We don't have the resources.
We're not talking about occupying multi-countries. We're talking about fucking Iraq that you pulled out of.
things blow up again.
Well, that's
so
what
we,
Iraq.
so we've got to have a more sustainable strategy, which means the boots on the ground have to be Iraqi.
What about
The boots
Syria?
and in Syria, the boots on the ground have to be Syrian, and that's why. Well, we have a Free Syrian Army and a moderate opposition that we have steadily been working with, that we have vetted. They have been
All right,
on
time
the
out.
defensive, not just for MISIL.
So we got